a post-game show that is going to run for every football game and every basketball game throughout the 2024-25 academic year. So we can't do something cheesy like the fifth quarter or something basketball. Like, we're not going to change it. So we're going to go with, I think, the aftermath. We just came up with that like 3 minutes ago in the pre-show meeting when Aaron arrived back in Athens. But the show is brought to you by our good friends at Mio's Pizza in Clifton. It is a campus staple. They have incredible pizza, my favorite steak hoagies in the entire city, great potato wedges, you name it. It is very good. They have great drink specials, and it is the go-to spot before games, especially before Bearcat basketball games, but we'll get to that further on down the road. Also a great spot prior to football games as you're heading to your tailgate or whatever it may be. So go visit our friends. They have been friends for a long time, and we have done a lot of good stuff with Mio's. Now they are an official sponsor of the Aftermath, the post-game show. Hi, Aaron.
Yo.
I made that read up as we went, right off the top of my head.
And that's why you do radio.
I'm sure Kelly and Rich. That came together for a little behind the curtains. That came together today on the sidelines. Them sponsoring the post-game show. I was like, hey, we're doing a post-game show. I haven't had time to really like sell a sponsorship yet. You guys want in? And they were like, yeah, we want in. So that's how that works. Cincinnati opens the season today, 38-20, win over Towson. At times, there was a lot to be very excited about. At times, there was a lot to scratch your head about and say, boy, they have work to do. And a lot of work to do prior to next Saturday against Pitt, an angry Pitt team that is going to be coming into Nippert Stadium looking for some revenge. But that is for content throughout the rest of the week. Today, we talked Towson, and I think the lead, Aaron, the easy number one topic is the debut of Cincinnati's new quarterback of the future, Indiana transfer, Brendan Sorsby, and he had a very good day. 383 yards passing, completion percentage was good, moved the ball down the field, spread the ball, all over the place, ran for 2 touchdowns. I don't know what else you could have asked for in a debut than what Cincinnati got today from Brendan Sorsby.
Well, I mean, last year we saw 7 touchdowns, so I'm just saying.
Sure, but I don't I think this was different.
I agree.
I'm
totally kidding.
No, I agree though. Like, there is something to that.
The only thing that I'll say, I thought he looked composed in the pocket.
Right.
I thought he made good reads, good checkdowns. He didn't let the moment get too big for him. That all said, if I had to be critical of this team, 650 plus yards and only 38 points is crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you had the missed field goal by Carter Brown that, he's got to make that. He has to make that chip shot. Like, he knows that. Like, I don't think that's a surprise to anybody.
Sure.
And that wasn't something that was an issue for him last year. You know what I mean? So I'm not overly concerned about that part of it. And then you had the fumble by Victor Dawson, which, that adds 54 yards to the offensive total. That would have been at least 3 points. He got him down to the 12-yard line. So I feel you, but you know what, I would be a lot more concerned if this team over and over got to the red zone like we saw last year and didn't get points. Generally, when they got in scoring position, I think they converted on 3 of 5 red zone attempts, technically. I don't know if the Dawson one counts or not. You know what I mean? Like that play ended in the red zone with a fumble.
Well, they were
No.
3 of 5 in the red zone.
So yeah, they got 2 touchdowns in the red zone, and the 1 field goal, I think, was a red zone field goal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to. I haven't looked at that specifically to figure out which 5 are counted as red zone trips. But I didn't feel like they left a lot of points on the board. Did you?
Not a lot, I guess. I mean, you had the missed field goal, obviously. We talked about that enough.
And then the made field goal where they got down there and didn't punch it in. But other than that, I thought I think the fumble, 4 drives in the second half, Aaron.
Is that right?
Outside of like the game ender where Lichty came in and they moved the ball pretty well, but they ran the clock.
Five drives.
Yeah, 4, and then that last one, like I said, where they were just trying to end the game effectively. But 4 drives where, and I guess that last one counts too, is they gained like 60, 70 yards on that drive and then took a knee. So I think if you're just looking at the yardage totals, it might be a little misleading on the point total. You know what I mean?
I'm also not going to be extremely critical because you rotated in so many guys, both on offense and on defense. I feel like I saw somewhere around 8 to 10 offensive linemen play. We saw plenty of running backs today.
Did you see the number on defense? They had 26 guys record a tackle.
I'm not surprised.
I looked out there in the middle of the third or the first quarter, late in the first quarter, I guess, and it felt like most of the second team was rotating in for a drive. I know it was early in like middle second quarter. They had almost the entire second team in on the slant that went for a 70 whatever yard touchdown. That was almost all second team, especially on the back end.
Yeah. And again, like I said, I'm not going to be overly critical. I mean, we saw you can't justify what's going to happen the entire season based on what happens against a bye game at the beginning of the season. Because if you could, last season would have been really good, and it wasn't. So I'm not going to put anything into it. Like I said, if this is just me being nitpicky, I guess is I don't want that to be a trend. It was a trend last year where you had lots and lots of yards.
I agree. I agree completely. I'm just saying in analyzing it, I don't have like last year, there were flashing red lights of concern that they moved the ball between the 20s like relentlessly and then couldn't get points out of it. I just didn't walk away feeling like, damn, that, like the Miami game last year, they should have scored 60 points and they scored in the 20s or whatever it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was a game where it was like, shit, they were in the red zone 7 times and they scored twice or whatever it was.
The Miami game I try to forget from last year, but
fair.
I don't. There was some sloppy play, especially in the second half. You can't fumble 5 times.
Yeah, massive problem.
You cannot fumble 5 times. 5 of 10 on third downs is a little concerning, but again, you had so many substitutions. I'm not going to put too much into that. I don't want to see that become a trend. It's just something I noticed.
50%. I'm not mad at 50. Well,
against Towson, it shouldn't be 50%.
Right. But if it's 5 of 10 going forward, I'm not going to be upset by that. I'm trying to remember back to the third downs that, like, if anything, I know they had the one where I thought Sorsby threw a bad ball over the middle. He like kind of was behind the receiver a little bit early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
He overthrew Royer in the corner of the end zone.
Yeah.
And then he had, I think, Henderson crossing from left to right and threw it from behind him. Those were two chances where if he throws a good ball, they either get a touchdown or they convert the third down. That was really the only one I think that stood out to me where it was like the plays were there to be made and they didn't make them. Royer was open running to the corner of the end zone on the one that he missed on second down.
Average third down distance was 6.5.
Not great.
Not great.
Would like that to be a little better. Feels like it was worse last year, but that's neither here nor there.
And they have to, as we're talking about things they need to clean up, special teams was a concern today.
It's not good at all. Not remotely good.
Punting
Mason Fletcher was good. That was it.
Excellent.
2 punts, both over 50 yards. He looked like Mason Fletcher again. He looked like Fletch.
All the way back. I agree.
Yeah. Everything else, not great, Bob.
Not great.
The gunner play was good.
It was. We saw who we see back there. Xavier Henderson and
Aaron Turner.
Aaron Turner, yeah. So
yeah.
I was happy to see them down and figuring everything out. We've seen plenty of guys who I feel like I stumped Xavier Henderson asking him about his gunner play today. I asked him.
He was not expecting. Look, we're the #1 gunner podcast in America.
We are that.
And somebody has to ask him about being a gunner.
So I asked him if he gets more excited about making offensive plays or going down and playing gunner and making any of those plays. And he completely stopped and said, that's a really good question. And he, I guess, was reflecting in that moment. He was reflecting back on his high school days and how he played defense in high school and took him back to that. And he said, I just want to go out there and make all the plays. So it didn't really matter to me.
I really like that kid.
Love him. He's a grinder.
Yeah, seems like he's about the right things. He wants to be a team guy. He wants to, do things the right way and does things the right way. And he's an easy kid to pull for.
Absolutely.
Well, how beautiful was that ball Sorsby dropped in a bucket to him? Play action, post route over the top. I mean, that's one of those in college football. As soon as you let it go, when you're the quarterback, you're like,
yeah. I can only imagine after what he went through with this team last year and feeling, I imagine that he probably at times felt like he was the passing offense. That's it.
Yeah.
And to have, granted, again, we had a guy who had 7 touchdowns last season in Emory Jones in the first game, but
sure,
we got to see Xavier Henderson just blow the top off and just a giant touchdown, 42 yards.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's impressive about that for me was the play action part of it, because that was analytically what Sorsby did best at Indiana in his 7 starts last year. And they mixed that in a little bit in that first half when the offense was really clicking. That was like, man, that is, with as good as this run game is, seeing him in the pistol, it looked like he wasn't quite Boomer Esiason, but it looked like he had a good pump fake, or play fake, play action, where hid the ball, did a nice job, turned around, like knew where he wanted to go with it. He ran a couple, I think a throw to Royer over the middle was play action that Royer had a big gain on, 22 yards. That was play action as well. That has me excited in terms of setting up offense off of the run game, because you're going to have to respect this team's rushing ability. As predicted, we talked about it the other night. Brian, what's up? I didn't think you'd see Corey Kiner a lot. I thought he was impressive in the limited amount of carries that he garnered. But they had a chance, and I know Chance Williams got dinged up a little bit. I know Manny Covey got dinged up a little bit. They both came back in, but that was the depth of that running room was on display as Evan Pryor comes in, who got hurt at the end of camp, kind of slid down the depth chart a little bit because there's a lot of talent in that room and said, hey, wait. 4 carries, 105, house call. Hello, don't forget me.
Well, and that's what Coach has talked about since the end. I feel like since he's been to Cincinnati, is he wanted to have home run hitters. And today we saw a home run hitter in Evan Pryor, and he almost took a second one to the house.
He did.
So, we got to see just how deep that running back room is now compared to what it was. And I was impressed. Victor Dawson's got to figure out how to hold on to the ball better. But
that was Satterfield mentioned exactly what happened in the post game.
Yeah, you can't run down the sideline with the ball in your inside arm, and you're going to get punched out. And that's exactly what happened. He's got to run with it in his outside.
He's got to get that thing over to the outside, and then they can't get to it. You're running down the sideline with the ball to the field. That's the only way they can get you. And the funny thing is, I saw a bunch of people complaining, like, why is he in there? The man bounced off 3 tackles, went outside, and took it 50 yards. That's a good thing. Just got to learn to switch it to the other side. It's correctable.
Yeah.
Very correctable.
I don't think that's something we'll continue to see. That's fundamentals that you can correct in practice this week.
Yeah. And he seems like a bright kid.
And I'm sure he doesn't want that to happen again. Absolutely.
I'm sure he was upset with himself knowing, why didn't I just get it into my outside hand? I'm probably excited as hell. He transferred from Merrimack, and he's running down the sidelines trying to get to the end zone in his first big time collegiate performance. So I don't hold that too much against him. Get the ball in the outside hand.
Yep.
I guess, and I had somebody say, you guys said the defense was better. Okay, yeah, we did. You know what we also said? We worry about run defense, and we worry about pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
What were the 2 most glaring things? Although I thought the pass rush was a little bit better than some of what I saw on Twitter. And a lot of that is I stand generally behind the opposing team's offense and take pictures from there because Reagan and Kelsey's attached to Reagan's hip. They're on the other side. So I'm shooting from the backside. There was traffic around that quarterback quite a bit. Cam Wilson, I thought, was around a lot. Eric Phillips, especially early, was in the backfield. Jared Bartlett was in the backfield quite a bit. Does it need to be better? Absolutely. That's not saying it was good, but I don't think it was as non-existent as some were saying. There were definitely plays where the guy had too much time standing back there, of course.
It was also better before they started rotating. And when you start rotating in second and third team guys, that made a difference. I mean, you saw what happened to whoever number 79 on the offensive line for Towson. Eric Phillips was in that guy's head. I think that guy had 3 or 4 penalties alone from what Eric Phillips was beating him almost every single
like a drum. Yeah.
Every single down. So the guy was getting false starts. It was just he could not handle Eric Phillips.
And Brian, not only do they have a lot of newbies, they also are in a new system that nobody has played before. Everybody is figuring this out. Everybody is working to get on the same page. And I thought in the second half, considerable improvement.
Yeah.
In the second half.
Yeah, when you only score, 3 right at the very beginning, especially after giving up that 2-minute drill to Towson at the end of the first half, it could have gone real bad real quick in the second half if you had not buttoned down and just taken care of business.
Evan Pryor hits that one-play touchdown. I think that calmed everybody down at the start of the second half. Second half was not It almost was like the end of a scrimmage, right? Where everybody was like, okay, saw what we wanted. Let's everybody let's get out of here healthy.
The third quarter was such a slog. It felt like it took forever.
Yeah. It wasn't second half was not aesthetically pleasing by any stretch of the imagination on either side.
No.
I didn't think you were upstairs. I didn't think the defensive backs, like I've seen a lot of complaining about the DBs. I didn't think they were, they had one bad play, and then Armani Arnold. For everybody that says, why don't these DBs turn their heads around? I present to you Armani Arnold turning his head around, losing the receiver, and not making a play that if he would have kept his head turned, played the receiver's hands and the ball, he would have had a much better chance of making something happen.
He also turned his head around in the end of, I want to say it was close to the end of the second half. Towson was driving and they were in the end zone, and Armani Arnold almost picked it off. And I feel like it was probably offensive pass interference, but it didn't get called. But it made up for the defensive pass interference they didn't call on Armani Arnold way back in the first quarter, because he was draped all over some guy over the middle in the end zone.
I didn't think that was a good officiating crew.
No.
For either, that wasn't, I don't think they screwed UC. I just don't think they were very good at their jobs.
It was just, it's first game for everybody. You're getting back in the groove of things. And I didn't think there was anything egregious. I think they actually let the guys play probably a bit more physical than they could have. They could have. It looked like there was a lot of chirping, especially with, I want to say it was Cam Rutherford.
Dude,
is it 26?
Those guys were Those guys, Towson was chirping the basketball team before the game. Yeah, it was like Rayvon McKinley, Dylan Mitchell, JJ Rimbert. I don't think CMOS was out yet, but CMOS was down there eventually. Chirping the as they were stretching and warming up in the end zone, doing their stretching lines, they're chirping at the basketball team. What are we doing?
They also were in no rush to get across the field at halftime at all. I'm watching guys bump into guys on purpose. What are we doing? Come on. But no, I there was, like I said, I think that the referee crew probably could have been a bit more hard on both teams for the amount of chirping and some of the stuff after the play, but they just kind of let it go, and none of it got out of hand, I don't believe.
Agreed. Agree, Matt. The first UC true freshman, to start a game since Marquise Copeland, I believe in 2015. 15 or 16. I think one of the two.
He's pretty good.
He turned out pretty good. Jaquan Sanks is going to be a star here, pun intended, because he plays the star position. But
you are the king of dad jokes in the last week. My God,
I know. I'm really coming into my own on the dad jokes. I will say, the defense did not have a great day, Aaron, but you know what they did? They hit hard. They were physical throughout the game.
The one running back who had the white hoodie on underneath his jersey for Towson, he tried to hurdle twice, and he was end over end in both instances when he tried to hurdle.
Yeah,
kind of felt bad for him.
So they were playing a lot of, and I don't know what this, I thought they were very vanilla. I thought they played a very base 3-3-5 shell tonight.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to give too much away when you're rotating that many guys in, when you are playing Pitt in a week.
Right.
Who they're pissed. They remember last year. So yeah, you don't want to put too much on tape to give away the sauce, if you will.
Right.
So yeah, I'm okay with that. But yeah,
they hit hard.
Yeah, that running back it looks like his name is Matthews. He got rocked a couple times, and that quarterback, he got rocked a lot of times.
I mean, give him credit. He hung in there when there were guys breathing down his throat.
He did.
Unfortunately, a couple of the times he got rocked were late hits, roughing the quarterback. And
I didn't see any bad calls in that regard. I didn't see any bad calls.
Clean. Those were bad. Like, you can't continue after the quarterback 3-4 steps after he lets go of the ball.
It's sloppy.
It's going to be called every time.
It's sloppy and undisciplined, and those are things that if this defense wants to be successful, they can't give up easy things like that.
Right. Yeah, need to clean up the roughing. Absolutely, Neil. No argument there. They've got to get better in that regard. But I mean, I didn't walk away feeling great about the defense, Aaron, but I also didn't walk away feeling like it wasn't. I wasn't surprised by anything that happened on the defensive side of the ball. Were you? After all the podcasts and all the shows and the camp coverage, it's kind of what I expected if we're being straight up with each other.
I'm taking it with a grain of salt because, again, Tyson Veit had said, a week ago that he was instructed to rotate as many guys in as he could. You got 26 guys with a statistic, and there are probably more than that played that didn't.
Yeah, I'm guessing at least 30 guys were in at some point defensively. And most of those, when the game was still, being contested, you know what I mean? Nobody had thrown in the towel. There were probably 28 to 30 guys that took snaps on defense in that realm.
And that's why I'm, again, taking it with a grain of salt. It's first game. It's Towson. They don't want to put too much on tape. So I know that I have this reputation that I am the eternal pessimist, but I'm not. I think that there's some yellow flags, but I don't think
the linebackers need to be better. The linebackers, I thought Jared Bartlett played great. I think the rest of the linebacking core did not live up to expectations, I guess would be a good way to put it.
Jonathan Thompson dropped a pick six.
Yeah, he did.
That was there was no one in front of him, and that was a pick six. So when you asked me, I don't know, 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, if I thought they left points on the board, yeah, I thought that was 6 that he he dropped.
Yes, that's fair. Brian Sims had 4 tackles, did get credit for half a TFL. Thompson had 3 tackles, a pass breakup that should have been a pick 6. He got credit for half a TFL. But we didn't see a whole lot from anyone in the linebacker room not named Jared Bartlett. And with the concerns that are there across the defensive line without Dante, without Jalen Hunt, without Micah Coleman, the latter two we're not going to see this year. The linebackers have to be really good. I didn't think they did a good job filling the gaps to the outside on those outside zone plays.
No, there were so many runs around the tackle.
Right. And, that is an end that has to set the edge that didn't set the edge. And that could be something that's cleared up with Dante because those ends don't feel like they have to crash the middle. I think they really centered today on stopping the middle because everybody was flooding the line of scrimmage. And Towson did what you should do in that situation and said, okay, we'll go off tackle. If you're gonna, heavily key on stopping the middle, we're gonna go to our outside zone stuff. And they killed UC on outside zone.
Yeah, and that's if the defensive line is going to be, I don't want to say a liability, but a position that's under construction for the majority of the season, then the linebackers are going to have to figure out how to step up in order to protect that defensive line.
Yeah. And Crypt Keeper, I did want to address this a little bit. I didn't see them blitz all day. So if you don't have, a dominant edge rush present on your defensive line, and you're not going to send an extra linebacker or two, or the star or one of the safeties or whatever, you're not going to get much pass rush. You're going 3 against 5. Even playing an FCS team, their 5 guys should be able to block your 3 more often than not. I would not expect that to be that vanilla going forward. At least not from what I've heard, talking to people on the defensive staff and talking to defenders throughout camp coming into the season. While I don't think they're going to be like the Blitzburg Steelers, I do think you're going to see a lot more activity from the linebackers coming after the quarterback than you saw today.
Well, and again, going back to especially early in the that first drive, Bartlett lived in the backfield. Eric Phillips lived in the backfield. And then again, they started making substitutions and rotating guys in and out and just trying to find out what you have with a lot of your depth, which is what we wanted to see. We even said we wanted to see that. So again,
you can't be mad.
I'm taking it with a grain of salt because I saw some things that impressed me, especially in that first drive. And, we didn't get beat on a deep ball in that first drive. We stopped them on third down. I mean, truthfully,
they really didn't get beat by a deep ball all day. They got beat on a slant.
Yeah.
That didn't have help over the top.
If you want something to feel good about, this defense was 4 of 15 on third down, and that's impressive.
Yeah.
And one of 3 on fourth down. So I'm not terribly upset with the way that they handled themselves.
I'm not as down on the defense as some, given everything that we know about how many guys were playing the first game in a new system. And we we're not going to shy away from the fact that we expressed concerns, and those concerns proved to be reason to be concerned. We spent weeks here telling you, worried about the pass rush, worried about stopping the run. The pass rush wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination, and they struggled to stop the run. We expected that.
Yeah. And we saw plenty of guys, especially young guys, getting in there, or transfers getting in there. And I'm looking at the top 3 tacklers were Minkins, Bartlett, and Antoine Peak Jr. And Antoine Peak was all over the place. He was flying around today. But then they all had 6 tackles. Jordan Young and Simeon Coleman with 5. So again, just some young guys. Jordan Young being the only incumbent out of your top 5 that isn't a sophomore or
true freshman.
Yeah.
I thought Monte Whedon made some plays too.
Yeah, I mean, we saw plenty. Derek Canteen is another one who's just all over the place.
He's really good.
He is. I thought he was going to injure himself when he was celebrating at one point. I was nervous. But no, they again. When next week you have a real test. You have Pitt.
Well, and next week I think you'll see 22 players on defense and not 30.
Right. Yeah, I don't think
you're going to see that, and you're going to see the number 1 guys have their amount of snaps increase quite a bit.
Right.
So give me the over next week. You're probably not wrong, Chad. I think it's going to take a couple weeks for this defense to really solidify and find its identity.
Yeah. So I don't know. If I was giving a grade for defense today, I would give them a C+.
I think that's fair.
And I think
C or a C+.
I think there is plenty of room for improvement, but I don't think they were actually running out all the bells and whistles. I don't think that their rotations were what you're going to see throughout most of your in-conference play and against Pitt. So I'm not terribly concerned yet.
I think that's fair. I think that's a reasonable take. There are, like you said, a lot of yellow flags.
Mm-hmm.
Fix it. fix it. And then I'll feel a lot better. If those yellow flags become red flags, then this defense is going to be in a world of hurt. And there's going to be a whole lot of pressure on Brendan Sorsby and this offense to go out there and deliver regularly.
My favorite Brendan Sorsby plays today were the plays where he was scrambling out of the pocket and there'd be a
down the field.
Running back running with him or nearby, or a tight end kind of flaring out with him, and he'd just dump it. The defender had to make a choice. Are you going to stay on the guy who's running the flare, or are you going to go after the quarterback? And ultimately, they always bid on the quarterback, and he just
take what they give you.
Was it Chance Williams who, if he hadn't slipped on the turf,
was gone?
I think that was 6.
He's gone.
So
yeah.
Maybe there's another play that you left 6 on the board there, but
you know what was outstanding today? Shocker, Joe Royer is a really good.
He was built in a lab for tight ends. It's stupid. If I was Joe Royer, I would probably never wear sleeves.
Just a shirt in general.
Whatever. He is really good, and his athleticism was on complete display today. I don't know, even when Wiley and Lenny were here, I don't know that either of them were as athletic as this kid is.
I mean, he does a really good job finding, and we saw this throughout camp, and we saw it again today. Like, he just seems to find open spaces. He just seems to be like in a position to catch the ball and get upfield and make a play far more often than not. And you saw that again today. He obviously had the maybe the highlight of the day, leaping over a defender. I mean, did you see the picture? He was up there. Got some hots.
I think I enjoyed that play, but I think the Sorsby borderline high stepping into the end zone was probably my favorite play.
Okay. Well, that was 3rd and long, and the middle of the field just parted like the Red Sea.
It did.
You know why that happens? Because you have shown throughout the game the ability to spread the ball around. So everybody has to be guarded.
8 or 9 receivers today?
Yeah.
9 receivers.
Everybody has to be guarded. And that's how all of a sudden the middle of the field just opens up and you can run straight up the gut into the end zone.
Sterling Burkhalter had himself a day as well, and good for that kid. He didn't did he have a catch last year? I don't believe he had a single catch last year.
I don't remember one. If he did, it was late in the game that didn't matter.
Good on him sticking around this year and got
another play where Sorsby gets through his progressions,
the last read,
and finds the guy that slipped through the defense. I think they went with the crossing route. They came off of the Burkhalter. Royer drew the defense across the field, and he's just standing there. And Sorsby, boop, boop, boop. Oh, there he is. That's got to be the most nerve-wracking catch in football, right?
For both the quarterback and the receiver.
Yeah. The guy is just standing there. Nobody within 30 yards of him.
Bananas.
Oh God.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, overall, when you add it, like special teams, I'd give a D, only because Fletcher had 2 great punts. If not, it would have been an F for special teams.
Again, I think that's fair.
And then you had defense, C plus range. Offense, I'd go what? B plus? Maybe A minus, but probably I'd lean B plus. The second half wasn't, like I said, they didn't have a ton of possessions in the second half to really like explode. Like I said, I think both teams got through halftime and said, "Seen what we needed. Let's get out of here." And to factor into that, it felt like for a stretch that third quarter took so long because Towson had a guy hurt after almost every play, it felt like, in the third quarter.
And it wasn't like this. Oh, I got a
No.
cramp to extend the
No.
play, or
They were dropping.
Yeah.
So I hope for them, I hope they get a bunch of those guys back, because that was a decent FCS team. I've seen much worse FCS squads come into Nippert Stadium.
It's whatever.
Yeah.
We got to see what we wanted to see. We wanted to see depth. We talked about wanting to see depth, and the depth was on full display when you run 8 different guys carried the ball today. The only thing we didn't see up until the end of the game, I think Lichty took the last knee, and he was in on that last drive, but he didn't pass the ball at all. You were just running the ball to run the clock and get out of there.
Tom, here's a I get what you're saying, and I'm not being argumentative about this. I know it's difficult to tell with me at times. I didn't think it was much that they were. I didn't think that it was as much that they were getting pushed back as much as I thought they were getting pushed in. I really felt like the DNs were, and the Towson offensive line played into this as they figured out what Cincinnati was trying to do. They just funneled everything inside and then went off the tackle. And there were, I think this is why what you saw, there were wide gaps off tackle, and that tackle was pushing in, opening up the outside lanes. They didn't do a good job setting the edge. I don't think it was a matter of them getting pushed back 4 or 5 yards as much as it was a matter of Towson did a good job taking the UC ends and the linebackers where they wanted them to go, if that makes sense.
If you take the quarterback's 7 rushes for 5 yards out of the equation, Towson rushed the ball for 30 rushes for 189 yards, an average of 6.3. And
too much.
You can't give that up. But
when you're going into a league where they have the best running backs in the country up and down the Big 12,
you're also playing without Dante and without 2 other starters, so you're running rotations out there to test your depth, and now you're playing with second and third and fourth string guys.
Yeah. You hope now that they're playing, they start to develop into higher level guys, but they were expected to be quite a bit further down the depth chart.
Well, and having as many snaps as they all had today, they talked about in the presser. I think both Coach and Joe Royer talked about how the biggest leap you'll see in a season is from game 1 to game 2.
Week 1 to week 2. Yep.
And if that's the case, you got a lot of guys, a lot of snaps that they may not have seen if you had played it close to the vest and just tried to blow out the team. I know I joke about I wanted to see, win by 7 scores, and in a vacuum, sure, that would have been fun. But you got to see plenty of depth, and you got to see what this team is now and what it has the potential to be in the future.
Yep. I'm good. You?
I'm excited that football is back. It was I know it's a long drive for me to get there, to get back, and to do it all in one day is a lot of driving. But it was really good to see a lot of people that I get to see during this time of year and on the sidelines up in the box, and just it was nice.
It was. It's a good time. It's a good afternoon. It's a long, that game was long. The press conference was long.
The third quarter. Well, the press conference was 30 minutes waiting for coach to get. Look, they were probably it's been a long time since they celebrated a win.
Sure.
And
since Houston, who lost to UNLV tonight.
You got 47 new dudes in there that have never celebrated a win with the Cincinnati Bearcats. So they did a little celebrating. That's fine.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't become status quo that we wait 30 minutes.
Agree. Special thanks to Mio's for jumping on board as the sponsor for this show. We will be doing this show after every game through the football season, every game through the basketball season. So I'm excited. We kind of tested this thing out last year. You can see the numbers right now are very good at almost 11 o'clock on a Saturday night where the game ended 5 hours ago.
We also have plenty of spots if you are looking to, get in the game as far as sponsorships go in some of our different segments and such for some of our shows. There's certainly some spots open.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. I'm glad that we are able to take this thing up a notch, make it its own separate entity, and, continue to add to all the cool stuff that we do at Bearcat Journal. Remember, 9:30 tomorrow morning, Aaron will feel much better than he did last week as he produces the Bearcat Brunch. Dave Simone, Jeff Howell. I'm interested to see what Dave thought.
I think he gave some of his thoughts out there on Twitter, so we have an idea. I think we're all in close alignment.
Yeah. It wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not walking out of that thinking this is a team with, college football playoff aspirations. And guess what? Here's, I think, something, I'm going to leave you guys with this. When the expectation that everybody has talked about is getting to 6, maybe 7 wins, you know what that means? That means you're a flawed team. It means you're a team that's a work in progress. It does not mean that you are a team that's going to come out of the chute in week 1 and just start beating the hell out of people. So
there's also plenty of teams in this conference that have struggled a little bit in week 1. So we'll see.
Some would look at this and say Cincinnati struggled, and I wouldn't totally argue with them. It's an 18-point win against an FCS team. If we were looking at this from the outside, we would probably look at this final score and look at the offense that Towson put up and say it's going to be a rough year for Cincinnati. I get that. If you think before the season this is a team that is going to do a good job, if they get to 6 or 7 wins, then you can't be surprised in week 1 when they look like a team that's probably a 6 or 7 win team.
I just don't want to see anyone in a preseason poll ever put Houston above Cincinnati again.
Ever again. I'll wait until after the game, but I'll agree with that when
I can't wait to do our Big 12 recap tomorrow.
That's going to be interesting. We'll have to figure that out. We'll talk about it off air. All right, that's going to wrap it up. That is the first Aftermath. The Aftermath, presented by Neo's Clifton. He's Aaron Smith. I'm Chad Brendel. We'll see you next time right here on BearcatJournal.com.